Radio V. Radio in TV. Radio in TV.
Hey, Bob, with the state of rock radio, do you feel like shows like yours and the CMS and others are going to have to carry the torch of metal? Metal's always been an underground movement, but do you think it's up to those kind of shows to actually get the music out to the people?
Absolutely. They're the only shows doing it. Who else is playing Iron Maiden, Hallowed Be Thy Name? It's ridiculous.
And now, here is your host, Bob Nalbandian.
Love you, bye.
Oh, hey, we got our guest, Chris Akin. I don't see them on the screen. Chris Akin and Neeley, are you there? There they are. Look at them pretty faces there.
Yeah, look at us, Bob, in all our glory.
You recognize that bumper? Who did that?
Yeah.
That's a new Wheezy bumper. I thought you might enjoy that one.
It's a Wheezy production.
So now Wheezy is a bona fide TV producer.
Right.
Which he always wanted to be. I was hoping that a little bit more from Wheezy on that one, to be honest. I was hoping we'd get a little bit of the Tim James claiming how I am not just a legend, but an absolute legend.
I guess you're going to have to pay him a little more, Bob.
Apparently. I
don't work out of him.
I don't have the big cash funds as the CMS does. So, but fortunately, Wheezy is doing me a favor here. So a good job, Wheezy. Of course, welcome to the show, Chris Akin and Neeley from the Classic Metal Show. What's going on, gentlemen?
Go ahead, Niels.
Go ahead,
well,
Niels.
I've been talking the whole time here, Chris. I thought you lost your voice. Aside from a broken foot, you've lost your voice as well.
I think Chris is a little bit timid on TV.
I'm very shy.
We got to break him
very shy.
So now you got the beautiful faces to go along with the voices there for those who have never seen Chris Akin and Neeley in the flesh.
Yes.
So there they are, man. The bounty hunter and the brute, or the bounty.
And they'll never tune in again, Bob. You scared your audience away. What little you had.
That's true. And you do notice I am sporting the old CMS T-shirt here, right?
You are sporting the Classic Metal Show T-shirt, Bob, and I hail you for it. Hail and kill, my friend.
And kill.
Hail
Well,
and kill.
fuck you, pal. So I hear you got some new T-shirts. Listening to a recent show, actually.
Well, they're just the ones you got on
the
there,
same
Bob.
one. But I want the spaghetti strap one.
Very sexy.
Hey, I look pretty good in a spaghetti strap shirt, man. I must say so. So anyway, Chris and Neeley, we don't have any other guests. I was hoping we'd have another live guest here, but it's always good with the both of you. I had to have you both on together because you can't split the show with either Chris Akin or Neeley. It's got to be the package. It's like the 70s, like a Sonny and Cher, or like a Donnie and Marie, or like a Seals and Croft.
Well,
or
if
like
you're
a Peaches and Herb. Well, maybe it's not Peaches and Herb, but go ahead, Neeley.
if you're a Chrisophile, though, there's no need to have me with you.
Well, that is true. That is true. But I've been listening to the latest episodes. Before we get going, if people don't know the CMS, the Classic Metal Show, you could hear it at theclassicmetalshow.com. Look I'm doing your bumper here. It airs every Saturday night. Go ahead, Neeley, take over.
Every Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time, uncontrolled noise. Is it net, Chris?
Look, he
Whatever.
doesn't even know.
Just look it up.
Or you can look it over at Spreaker, That's Spreaker, spelled like speaker with an R, Spreaker.com/CMS Rocks. You can listen to us live.
Yes, and if you can't catch them live, like I hardly ever do, I always listen to them on the podcast via Spreaker. So Spreaker, iTunes, and YouTube. I like the fact that you're putting up some of those classic episodes. Tesla Rocker. Dude, I haven't heard that guy had... I was, it's funny because I was going back to the YouTubes trying to look at some of them, and then I just noticed on the recent episodes you've been posting some good old classic episodes from years ago, which is really cool.
Yeah, we actually made a little change on how we're doing the podcast. Instead of doing it once a week, we're doing it a little bit at a time every single day. And to make sure that it's worthwhile for the listeners to go every single day, we're mixing in some of that stuff from 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago. Some of the classic old stuff so that people can get a taste of the old stuff as well as the new stuff. Because the old stuff, when we listen to it, we think it has a definite different attitude than we have now, but it's still really good in our eyes anyway.
And it's just, I mean, you don't get characters like that calling in. Some of those old guys like Tesla Rocker. I mean, you think that, that was just a hilarious thing. It's a lot of the old, my favorite one, the Alien podcast. That's an absolute classic. Hey, we could get some callers in too. If anyone does want to call in, we'll go ahead and open the phone lines. 855-878-4652. Are the phone lines open, Jake? Yep, he says the phone lines are open, so you could go ahead and call in. So we're going to do something a little bit different today on the second half of the show here. We're going to run not really a contest, but something a little bit different, where I'm going to make Chris Akin and Neeley judge and jury. You guys are going to be the Library of Congress. You guys are going to determine if these songs are actually rip-offs or just random. You got to decide if this is plagiarism or not, all right? You've done this kind of thing on your show before, I know, and I think no other who better to have judge and jury than Neeley and Chris Akin. So we're going to be doing that the second half of the show. We got a lot of songs. We'll just go through as many as we can, Jake, on that. So cool. But I figure right now, why don't we talk about some of the recent stuff that's going on in the news, in the metal news? What do you think about that whole Van Halen thing going on there, Mr. Akin?
Well, Eddie's a douche. I'll start there. He's just a monumental douche with his whole stance. Talk about just trying to sabotage the tour with the whole Roth doesn't want to be my friend, and whatnot. I mean, he's just slamming everybody, and the whole thing about Michael Anthony is ridiculous. He's either a delusional rich cokehead, or he's just trying. My hunch, the tour's tanking, and he's trying to get attention, because I know I can only speak for Cleveland, but they're already doing 2-for-1s on the lawn, which makes me think the tour's tanking. And now here comes Eddie with some crazy interview. So
is this the kind of attention he wants? I mean, Van Halen fans are just kind of going, dude, what the fuck? I mean, it's not impressing the Van Halen fans, and I don't know, what
won't matter. Yeah. It won't matter, though. Van Halen fans, the hardcores already have their tickets. They already bought their VIP packages. Now you're just trying to get people to remember You Really Got Me to sell the lawn seats for most of these shows.
What do you think, Neeley?
Well, I kind of agree with Chris, but at this stage in the game, 40 years in, why are we rehashing this? I mean, this is old conquered territory. Why dredge up the bad, especially when you're trying to promote a tour, as Chris says? And I think you'd want to encourage people to come out instead of gin up some negative feelings for the band. I mean, because, as Chris just stated so eloquently, and only Chris Akin style, Eddie does come off like a douche, bringing up negative things with the band. And the fact that Michael Anthony is no longer part of Van Halen, that's a real sore spot for the hardcores out there. And for him to speak poorly of Michael Anthony when Michael Anthony really, and he's been the good guy
absolutely
all along. So why speak poorly of the guy now that you have some kind of personal vendetta against him because he remained friendly and worked with your former singer Sammy Hagar?
I think that's what it's all about. And I wondered the same thing. What do you think about the video Hagar posted? I thought that was pretty right on. I thought that was pretty hilarious.
Well, I do, and for at this point, what is Sammy? Is he 70? He's like 70 years old now.
Pretty damn good, but he's got to be up there. He's definitely in his late 60s.
Well, this isn't about him being old. I'm just saying. My point is that what does Sammy have to lose?
Yeah.
He's got nothing to lose at this point to flat out call Eddie a liar.
Sure. Well, he already said that in the book, and I can understand if Eddie wants to slam Sammy, but like you said, it seems like Michael Anthony is just the guy caught in the middle and the guy getting all the slack for it. And he has done nothing bad to the band. I mean, it's more the hatred that they have toward Roth and toward Sammy and even toward each other. I hear the Van Halen brothers through circles that they don't get along at all. They don't talk to each other at all on the tour. And I hear that it's even a worse friction between the two brothers than it is between them and David. Because, David travels separately and all that stuff. So I think Eddie's just a miserable guy at this point. It's like, but dude, why put out the dirty laundry, especially when you guys are going back out on the road. And why are you blaming Michael Anthony? He did, and even when they slagged Anthony in the beginning and everyone was slagging Wolfgang, Anthony came out and said, hey, dude, don't slag, Wolfgang. That's not cool. He's a great kid, he stuck up for him. He said nothing bad toward the band. In fact, we were trying to interview, as I told you, Michael Anthony, and I think out of respect, they didn't want to do the interview because they didn't want to talk early Van Halen and have anything come out. And I'm trying to explain to his wife, hey, it's not. I guess his wife kind of manages him. We're not going to talk about it. We're talking about the scene. But I think that was something that they did more because they don't want anything getting out that might be construed as something negative toward the band. So. It seems pointless for Eddie to keep bagging on Michael Anthony, and he does come off like a douche. I mean, I think even the Van Halen fans say the same thing. It's like, dude, what the fuck? What are you saying? But
and that fits the profile of what they've been doing lately. They did the tour in 2013. That was terrible. Neeley and I can both attest to how bad those shows were.
Well, you're not the only two.
Then they put out the recording of it, which is just as bad. And it's ironic that these fans, they're so hardcore that they'll pretend that it's okay that Roth sucks ass. They'll just pretend, well, that's okay. That's his style. That's this, that's that.
Yeah.
Where meanwhile, then Eddie just comes right out and even the fans are giving him the benefit of the doubt. And Eddie's like, no, Roth is a dick. He doesn't try. He sucks.
Right. At least he's honest there. And the thing I got to say about Eddie is he is still playing better than ever. I mean, his chops are still up. I mean, there was a time where, he was a mess, obviously, but he cleaned up his act. But for him to go bagging on his own band that he created, it's like, dude, that's not going to help. It's definitely not going to help. But,
I will attest that when Chris and I did see Van Halen, that the band portion of Van Halen was spot on and solid. But at this juncture, what's the point?
Right. All right, we're going to be going into a break in a minute. So we're going to come back. We're going to talk about some other stuff, metal-wise and whatnot. So, let's go. Get into this break. We'll be back with Chris Akin and Neeley from the Classic Metal Show here on T-Radio V Inside Metal.
Hi, I'm Holly, and this is Michael. We're on Love Life on T-Radio V every day.
No! Every Tuesday.
Tuesdays.
Every day I try to get her to have a love life. But every Tuesday, where you can watch us and hear us, only one place.
Only hear him, though.
5 p.m. Pacific time, T-Radio V. We're going to talk about love, relationships, intimacy. There'll be some sex, but not between us.
No, I don't have sex with him.
Not often. You're single, we're going to share with you what to do if you just want booty calls or be in a relationship. Oh, you like booty calls.
I do.
What's it like to be in a relationship? We always say you have to be a strong me before you can be a great we. One place, right here, Tuesdays, 5 p.m. Pacific, only on T-Radio V, right?
Yep.
Cool.
Brad is actually here right now.
I don't have the white disease.
Whoa!
Give me I want to see like some tiny intro. Give me some boom. Give me some boom, bro. This is gonna make us money.
Ask Robert who his favorite celebrity animals are.
Okay. His animal lovers.
All right, everybody whip your out. Everybody whip it out. We'll be right back. See, now it's...
Let's do a couple things. Ready?
Action.
Oh,
monsters! Monsters!
You.
Oh, that means me.
It's gonna take the unreal mind.
To be honest with you, I like being down there a little more because my head was...
Candy corn monsters, boom!
Hi, I'm Kristen Renton, and I don't know what I'm saying. This one's World Animal Days.
Right, here we go. Oh, I'll just... It's not a real wall.
I mean, unless you fake it. I had a contest on night calls, and they were all peeing everywhere. Everyone's like, can I get another Diet Coke? Yeah.
We want to do more.
All right, Inside Metal Show on T-Radio V with my very special guest, Skyped in from Chicago and Cleveland, Mr. Neeley and Chris Akin from the Classic Metal Show. What's going on, gentlemen?
What's going on, Bob? Glad to be back on your illustrious program.
Yes, and since we last spoke, we had these guys on, a few months ago. You, Chris, had done your big opening at the Pittsburgh Pinball Museum, Pinball and Arcade Museum. I know you had Ron Keel perform there, and you had a lot of cool stuff going on. You want to kind of tell the listeners a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's as we said before, it's a museum with over 400 vintage pinball and arcade machines in it. It's basically a Kmart, but instead of rows of clothes, you got rows of pinball and arcade machines in there to play. It's going real well. You know, it's really taking off a lot faster than we thought. We've got a lot of cool things. We have a semi-metal thing coming up the weekend of July 24th to the 26th. We're gonna have a showing of the showing, and you get to play it and whatnot, of the brand new Kiss pinball machine that's getting ready to come out. So.
Is it going to have Tommy Thayer on it?
I hope so, man. It wouldn't be real if it doesn't have Thayer, now would it?
No, but Jim Barchak might be upset if it does.
Well, he'll be the only one because Thayer is Kiss as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no Thayer, no Kiss. That's what I say.
That's right. That's right. So speaking of Kiss, what do you think about, I mean, Gene Simmons is another guy that comes off like an ultimate douche all the time. And in this day and age, he's still, bagging on the fans, for the stealing of music. And it's like,
yeah,
dude, it is not the fans. There's legal. I mean, seriously, how many people now are doing illegal downloads? I mean, everything could be done legally through Spotify or through YouTube. I mean, that's how people watch music. They don't own music. They just stream it. So, if you're offered this, of course fans are going to do it. So it's not like, back in the Napster days where it was,
right.
People. I mean, I'm sure there are people that still download music. I'm sure there's still those BitTorrent, sites that people do it. But now, what's the point? I mean, I talk to like my nieces and nephews, and when I say, "Oh, where do you get all these songs? Do you like?" Do you download these illegally, or what do you got? No, we don't do it. We got, it's off Spotify or this and that. And I'm thinking, well, really, what's the difference? I mean, it's still these people continuously bag on the fans about it. I mean, how stupid is that?
Right. Well,
yeah,
there's an easy way to tell if people are what's going on, and what's really going on, if you ask me, is that the music's not very good, and more to the point, it's devalued to the point of being worthless with the fans. Music does not have value like when we were kids. It just does. It's not
Absolutely.
worth $15 to a kid. It's not worth $5 to a kid. But it's not like, like you brought up Spotify, so I'll use Spotify as a perfect example. If you go to the world of metal, what are you talking about? Asking Alexandria or Emery or Avenged Sevenfold or
stuff,
those types of bands as the current shit. Look at the number of plays. The number of plays on all that stuff is really low if you compare it to any of the pop stuff, or even more to the fact any of the heritage stuff. I would be willing to bet you that most of like the Emery and stuff like that would have significantly less plays than, I don't know, UFO or Journey or whoever, Metal Church,
Wow.
what have you. And it's because the music doesn't have value anymore. There's no sense of developing artists. It's either you hit or you're gone. And because of that, nobody really attaches to bands like we did as kids. When we were kids, you couldn't wait. There was 6 weeks of anticipating and trying to find your buddy that had a friend that worked at the record store that
Absolutely.
Could get you the Pantera record, 3 hours before it was released. And that's gone. There's no interest in music anymore, and that's why nobody buys it.
I agree. And owning music was a big thing. I mean, when we were kids and we couldn't afford the records, we would go out and all go, record shopping And, so and so would, especially when the imports came out, so and so might buy, Angel Witch and Raven, and so and so might buy, Iron Maiden and, Holocaust or whatever. And because the imports are so much, you can't afford them yourself. So you'd go home and tape everyone's records. But eventually you would go out and buy the record or the CD when it came out on CD because you wanted to own it. I mean, it was a thing to actually own the actual record or whatever. But you're right, that's absolutely gone. And I think that really fucked it up was in the late 90s, again, the labels got so greedy because I remember before Napster hit, CDs were selling for $18.99 at Tower Records. $18.99 was the retail price, which is absolutely absurd if you think of the cost it makes CDs. And if you look at anything else in the music business, technology-wise, everything has gone down in price, afterward. When DVD players came out, they were, super expensive. And then, now you can't even, they're $30. You could buy a DVD player. Same with anything, with technology, the mass produced, the cheaper it gets. Yet the prices of CDs kept going up, and the bands weren't getting paid any more money. They were still getting paid $1 a CD. Whether it was $18.99 or whatever, it was all the record label, the retailers, what have you, the one stops and whatever. So, I think that was really. I think if they made CDs at the time like $10.99 or $9.99, a $10 CD, you wouldn't really have this problem because people would have just bought CDs and then it wouldn't have been such a big issue. But I think a lot of people revolted at that time. And that's why when Napster came out and this and that, and then, the corporations got to it, Apple and all the other companies, they took that technology and they're saying, oh, well, we're paying the bands, but they ain't paying the bands shit when it comes out down to it. I mean, they're paying less than 1/100 of a penny per, what they should be paying. So, why are you bagging on the fans? It's the labels that started the whole madness. And if they, and furthermore, Gene Simmons, why isn't he? Why don't you see him bagging on YouTube or bagging on Apple or bagging on Spotify? Because they're big corporations, and he's a big corporate monger. Of course, he's not going. So what does he do? He blames the fans.
Right. Well, and the thing with Gene, and not only Gene, but everybody that has had this criticism so far has been one thing that's always missing in the argument. Who do they think is this band that's getting screwed? Give me a name. What band is out there that should be selling 8 million copies of their disc? There's not one.
Well,
and
even
no one can name it.
Yeah, well, even if you look at older bands or whatever, I mean, it is a shame or like an older band, like say, a band like a Megadeth or Metal Church or Anthrax or something that puts out records. They're the bands that are really hurting. I mean, they could put out a great album.
Come on, Bob. In the 80s, let's go back to the 80s when records were selling at the peak of their selling. When the Rolling Stones put out Steel Wheels, did people buy that in droves?
No, but a lot of people did just because it was the Stones.
But they were done.
Yeah.
They had their peak. Their peak was over.
Well, they were a live band. That's where they continued on. But I'm saying there are a lot of great metal bands, from the past that are putting out quality metal records today.
Yeah, but their peak is over.
Yeah,
but I love Saxon as much as the next guy, and I would argue that the last 10 years of Saxon, 15 years of Saxon is better than the first 20. That being said, they're an old band. They're not going to sell. No matter what era it is, they're not going to be selling with Lionheart and, the back in 79. That shit is not going to sell like the old days, even if it's better music, because they're an old band.
Yeah, I would argue that. I think some of their latter albums were getting a lot more. I mean, put it this way, their live shows, they're bigger in certain areas now than they ever were. I mean, I saw Saxon I saw them at the Whiskey when Metallica opened up for them in '82. Then and the place was packed. 4 nights, 2 shows a night. A Rat opened with 2 of the shows, Metallica 2 of the shows, packed. Then I saw them at the in the '90s at the Whiskey. The place wasn't even half full, and this was in the '90s. And I just recently saw them at the House of Blues with Armored Saint opening. You couldn't even, that was probably the most packed I've ever seen the House of Blues. They could have easily sold out 2 nights if they wanted to. So, live, I mean, they're bigger than ever before. But, when people aren't buying CDs, I mean, who knows how many CDs they would be selling. And I'm just saying it's a shame for bands like that. that are putting out quality music. Because nowadays people don't care; they just put out records just to tour. It doesn't matter how good the record is. And I think a lot of bands are just getting lazy about putting out records. Slayer being one of them. And I mean, Motorhead's going to put out a record every year or whatever to go out on tour, and it'll be a successful tour. But is the record really going to sell? Is the record really that great? Are they going to ever put anything that's going to compete with, Ace of Spades or Overkill? No, I don't think so, because they're not putting the time and effort, and and they're figuring, well, why should they? I mean, they're not going to make money off the CDs; they're going to make money off the tour. So that's basically what a lot of bands are doing.
Go ahead,
Neeley, go ahead, talk. I know.
Well, what I was going to say is that even though a lot of these bands are putting out new material, rarely do they ever play it in concert, because nobody wants to hear it for whatever reason, And I think I read a article with Joe Elliott of Def Leppard, who was basically honest. He was doing a little promotion for their upcoming tour. I guess the tour starts today in Florida. But he was saying that even legacy bands like maybe even an Elton John, who still puts out music, but nobody buys it or nobody cares. It's just like, well, why don't you guys follow me to the bar after the show and I'll play you one of my new songs?
Yeah.
It's because nobody wants to hear it in the arena.
Well, why, too? Because there's no radio stations out there playing. Even a band like Van Halen that put out, their last album was arguably a great record for Van Halen. I think it surprised a lot of people how good it was. Was there radio stations playing it? They didn't have any hit songs. If radio was playing that, or say some new Deep Purple tracks from some of their latest records, then they could have a hit on their hands. Then they could play it. But you're not getting radio behind these legacy bands. They'll play, the Smoke on the Water and You Really Got Me. They'll play that over and over again. But a band could put out a totally stellar record. Van Halen could put out an album that would blow away their first album. Still, radio wouldn't play it. So, what's the point of them playing it live?
Well, that's absolutely true. So what's the point of putting out a record anyway?
Absolutely. I think we're going to go into a break. Is that right, Jake? And then we're going to come back with a contest where Chris
I can't
and
wait.
Neeley.
What do I win?
Well, you'll find out very soon. All right, who is this? Chris Akin?
Metal Church.
Very good. Look at these guys. They're good. Inside Metal T Radio V. We'll be back with Chris Akin and Neeley from the Classic Metal Show.
Hey, hello, this is David Faustino, and you are watching T Radio V. Do you see what I'm saying? It's television crossed with radio. It's all together. It's weird. Radio's in the middle of it. It's amazing. You're watching it. Go.
Love and marriage, love and marriage.
Hey, I'm Dean Cain, and you are watching T Radio V. I'm watching it too. Right now. Seriously.
Brad is actually here right now.
I don't have the white disease.
Whoa! Give me I want to see some tiny intro. Give me some boom. Give me some boom, bro. This is gonna make us money.
Ask Robert who his favorite celebrity animals are.
His animal lovers.
All right, everybody, whip your out. Everybody, whip it out. We'll be right back.
See, now it's...
Let's do a couple things. Ready?
Action.
Oh, monsters! Monsters!
You.
Rolling.
Oh, that means me.
It's gonna take the unreal mind.
To be honest with you, I like being down there a little more because my head was...
Candy corn monsters, boom!
Hi, I'm Kristen Renton, and I don't know what I'm saying. This one's World Animal Days.
Right, here we go. Oh, I'll just... It's on a real wall.
I mean, unless you fake it. I had a contest on night calls, and they were all peeing everywhere. Everyone's like, can I get another Diet Coke? Yeah.
We want to do more.
T Radio V. Radio in TV. Radio in TV.
All right, Inside Metal on T Radio V. Some classic UFO, one of my favorite UFO songs, Pack It Up and Go, from the Obsession album. We got our guests. Where's their pictures? Where's their beautiful faces, Jake? There they are, Chris Akin and Neeley from the Classic Metal Show here on T Radio V Inside Metal Show. You guys are TV celebrities now, man.
And we're big into TV, man. We got faces for TV.
I think you should do your own show, the Bully and the Bounty Hunter.
It was only a matter of time, Bob.
I think,
we're taking everything over.
I think you guys should do a love show, man, with Neeley's love life and Chris's Korean War stories. Man,
we do Snatch Chat just about every week.
That is true, Snatch Chat. You'll have to do a TV Snatch Chat and have a different guests.
But I like to.
All right, well, we're going to do something a little bit different, and this is something that I know you guys have talked about, so I figured, you would be the perfect guest to do this. A lot of bands out there, a lot of metal bands have written so many riffs. There's so many riffs out there, and so many of the newer bands have written riffs that, sound like old riffs, and it makes you wonder, were these bands listening to this and directly ripped them off, or is it just coincidence, or what is it? Well, you guys are going to be the deciding factor. You guys are basically going to be the Library of Congress, the determining factor of if these bands are actually ripping off these other bands or if it's just random. You ready for this?
Ready.
Fire away, Bob. I'm ready to render a decision and or an opinion at any time.
All right, we got the order there set up there, Jake. I think Jake's ready to rock and roll. Let's play the first riff on set number 1. All right, that, of course, let it play through. Judas Priest, Running Wild from 1979 from the Hellbent for Leather album, or if you bought it in England, it would have been called the Killing Machine album.
They ripped it off, Bob.
Did they rip it off?
Wasn't my turn yet?
No, not quite yet. Play song number 2, and then you could decide. All right, you know who that was?
Iron Maiden.
Iron Maiden from 2000. Rip off or random, Chris Akin?
That doesn't sound anything alike. Nothing at all.
What about you, Neeley?
100% plagiarism.
You know what's hilarious is I remember interviewing Bruce Dickinson when the New Brave World came out. And this was the days they didn't want it when Napster was big and they didn't want to give out advances. So I went out to Sony Studios in LA, or Sony, their record company office, and they put you in a room and they play 4 songs, before you interview Bruce. And I hear this song, and at first I go, what? They're doing a cover of, Judas Priest. So when I interview Bruce, that was the first thing I said, kind of jokingly. I said, wow, when I first heard the first song off the record, I thought, wow, you guys are covering Judas Priest, Running Wild. And he puts his hands up. He goes, not you. All the British press is accusing us of that. We've never heard that song before. Adrian wrote the riff. He never heard it. It's just something random. I'm thinking, how could you not hear Judas Priest? Anyway.
Yeah, because Iron Maiden never toured with Judas Priest or anything in the 20 years before, right?
Right. Although probably they haven't played that song since probably I know that was on the Unleashed in the East, and then they kind of dropped it from the set. But I mean, if you're Steve Harris, you got to know that song. Yeah. So deep in the back of their mind.
Adrian Smith, he's not much of a metalhead either.
Yeah, exactly. And that is like a direct ripoff. So you guys say full on 100% plagiarism on that.
Iron Maiden should be jailed.
All right, let's do set number 2, song 1. right. You know who that is?
I don't know that one.
That is
Nancy
the band.
Lyon.
You played them on one of your shows.
That doesn't mean anything, Bob. I play a lot of bullshit that I don't know.
That's the Japanese band Easy-O from their. Well, I'll tell you. What does that sound like?
Shit.
Play track 2.
Dr. Feelgood.
There you go, Neeley.
Yeah.
I'm sure Easy-O, though, gets more than every third word.
Look at even the guitars. All right, so gentlemen, you decide. Easy-O, 1987. Motley Crue, 1989. Did Motley Crue plagiarize or is it random?
They plagiarized, of course.
Neeley?
I'm going to go with plagiarize. I'm going to say that Crew probably came back from a Japanese tour. Nikki probably heard that and said, dude, these guys are nobody over here. We'll play it here.
Well, you know what? That was when they signed with Geffen, put out the record, and you know who produced that album was Gene Simmons, who I know is very close with Nikki and the band. And actually the lyricist of that album, because the singer can speak English, was Jamie St. James. So
right.
I'm sure one of them had given them an advance tape, and it kind of crept in the back of their mind, but it's pretty obvious. So plagiarism, guilty?
Guilty.
All right. Set, okay, speaking of Easy-O, set number 3. No, play song 5 first. Or is that song? Okay, that's... Oh. All right, from the same album, Easy-O, the song House of a Thousand Pleasures from 1987. And go ahead, play track 6. Turn it up. That, of course, Led Zeppelin from the Physical Graffiti album, Wonton Song, 1975. Plagiarism or random? Neeley.
I'm going to go random.
Random?
It's close, but not that close. It almost sounds, the Easy-O songs almost sounds like the Cult of Personality more than it does that Zeppelin song.
Yeah, I see that. It sounds, I mean, the Zeppelin riff is obviously speeded up. Play the Easy-O one more time there, Jake, the House of a Thousand Pleasures. What do you think, Chris?
Well, since Led Zeppelin ripped everybody off and they don't have to pay for it, if they did it note for note, I would still say it's not plagiarism.
Good answer. I was just going to say that. Zeppelin ripped off every blues band from the 40s on, so there serves them right to get ripped off. But I don't know. It sounds pretty similar, but you are kind of right about the Cult of Personality. Didn't think of that one. Set number 4. Go ahead. All right, now the next song, track 8. That, of course, Metallica Hit the Lights from, that was a Metal Massacre version from 1982. And the first one again, play the first one again. No, track 7.
That was it.
This is the first one by Weapon, 1979, Set the Stage Alight. Random or rip-off? Chris Akin.
I'm going to say it's more
Borrowed.
We're sharing the influence.
Well, it obviously is because, of course, Lars Ulrich put it on the what was it? The New Wave of British Heavy Metal compilation album that Metallica did. He put the song on, so it's obvious that he knows that they borrowed it, and he's very very aware of it. So I wouldn't really call it plagiarism in that sense. The term borrowed might be more appropriate.
I think that's kind of like paying tribute,
right? But are they giving the band royalties for it? That's the question.
No, of course not. They're Metallica. Go ahead and sue us. We have like $180 gazillion to sue you with.
There you go. All right, let's do set number 5. From 1975, that is Thin Lizzy, of course. Spirit Slips Away from the Fighting record. Play track 10. What band is this, Chris?
Def Leppard.
Yes.
Good.
Switch 625. All right, from the High and Dry album, 1981. Random or ripoff, Chris Akin?
Borrowed.
Borrowed? All right,
Yeah.
so you wouldn't sue him, just a borrowed riff?
No, not. It's not. I mean, it's close, but it's one's slow, one's fast. There's
All
a different
right.
pace.
Okay, well, what? You're the Library of Congress. What makes it a ripoff? Is there like a certain? Is it like the Vanilla Ice thing? Well, we changed the one little note, so it's not. Or
Yeah,
in
that was fine.
Neeley, what are your thoughts?
Well, I happen to know that Joe Elliott is a big Thin Lizzy
Very
fan, as
true.
well as like Mott the Hoople. He does some cover bands when he's not doing Def Leppard. So it would not surprise me if that was an early influence of Joe Elliott to bring to the band. So I'm going to say that that is an influence.
All right.
Not necessarily plagiarized, but definitely an influence.
Fair enough, fair enough. In fact, Joe Elliott was supposed to produce the last Black Star Riders album. So I know he is very close with the band.
And his voice today sounds like Cannibal Corpse. So
Yes,
it's
that's right.
influence
He could
too.
do a Cannibal Corpse cover album there. Him and Chris Barnes. How are we doing time-wise? Yeah, we'll go through a couple more here. Set number, I got a shitload of them. We'll go through as much as we could here, Jake. Set number 7, track 13. You waving to me, Chris?
Yeah.
All right, 1980, the band Samson, and play track 14. Of course, Iron Maiden, 1981.
You can't call that a theft, Bob.
Why is that?
Because Dickinson was in Samson.
Yeah, but this is long before that Iron Maiden hired Bruce Dickinson. This was during the Killers album.
Oh, is
This
it?
yes.
That's what
That's
made
a
him
trick
such
question there.
That's why they brought him into the band. He knew.
Well, actually, I believe Thunderstick was a one-time member of Iron Maiden and brought that to the table. And there was a question if Steve Harris actually co-wrote the song. So that was actually, I believe that they actually do give Thunderstick credit on the Iron Maiden version. But
Bob, I
there
have
you
a
go.
request.
Speak. This is Mike Zinna right here. Ladies and gentlemen, get a camera on this man.
Stairway to Heaven.
Oh, Spirit.
Is that
Or
a
no,
ripoff?
Randy, California, right?
Yeah, is that a ripoff?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is 100% ripoff.
What do you think there, Neeley?
I would say it's 100% ripoff.
I agree. Just like Chris said earlier, Zeppelin ripped off everyone.
So
back in
here's
the
the
day.
big question. How much of the royalties is Spirit entitled to?
None, because they don't have enough money to sue Led Zeppelin.
No, that's not the point. That's not the point. My point is that how much of the success of Stairway to Heaven is attributable to Zeppelin and their work, or that little riff that Spirit actually created.
Well, they should give them a portion. It should be Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, and Randy California as
much?
the songwriters. Well, it's
Half.
a third, or whatever the yeah, at least I would say.
I would say half. That riff is so memorable.
Yeah. Well, you listen.
But that is the song.
Well, so many of their old stuff, you listen to How Many More Times, Bring It On Home, Since I've Been Loved. The only two songs they ever gave credit to was Willie Dixon off the first album. But, Nobody's Fault But Mine, those were all total rip-offs that Page and Plant took 100% of the credit for.
Sure.
So there you go.
All right, thank you, Bob.
You're welcome, Mike Zinno. We're gonna have him on our next show, right, Mike? All right, we got. Let's do the next one here. Set number 8, track 15. I'll go by tracks there for you, Jake.
Get true answers, but never tell no lies.
That again, of course, Judas Priest from the 1979 Hellbent album, or Killing Machine album if you're in England. And the song Killing Machine, play track 16, Jake. All right, that of course. Except with the song London Leather Boys that I believe they wrote about Chris Akin and Neeley back in their times hanging out in England. All right, random or rip-off there, Mr. Akin?
Random. I didn't think it sounded that similar, really.
Okay. Really? All right, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to agree that I think it's random. I think it's a similar riff, but I don't think it's a direct plagiarism.
All right. Yeah, it is very, very similar. Okay, let's play. Let's play the next one then. Track 17. Do any of you guys know what that band is?
Warrant?
Yes, exactly. The band that did Cherry Pie. Of course, 1980 from the Back in Black album. Play track 18. All right. That again, Mr. Udo Dirkschneider leading Accept. That was released a year later, 1981. Random or ripoff on this.
Wow, that's about the toughest one you've put out there so far. That's pretty close.
It makes me wonder because it's a year apart, so they could have wrote the song around the same time AC/DC wrote it. It's not like that was a big hit when it,
Right.
What do you think, Neeley?
I think that was random. To be honest with you, I really do. I think that was a random thing.
Okay, good.
I'm going rip off. Screw it. I just don't want to answer everything the same as Neeley.
All right, so accept 1 for 1. There you go. We got. Can we do a couple more? 2 more. We got 2 more. All right. Go ahead. All right. Yeah. Go with track 19. All right, that, of course, Nazareth, the great Nazareth, groundbreaking band from 1976, Waiting for the Man from the Playing the Game record. And this isn't so much a ripoff, but I think, let me hear what you guys think. Play track 20. Of course, Queen, 1980, another one, Bites the Dust.
Let's go.
All right, maybe not so much a ripoff, but you think a heavy influence, Chris Akin.
I do. And then Wham stole it for the Wham rap.
There you go. Very true. And so did Vanilla Ice, didn't he?
Him too.
Neeley.
Well, I'm gonna say that when you first started playing it, I actually thought that was Queen, the first one. So it's very, very, very close.
Definitely a different bass line, but the fact that Nazareth came out and no hard rock metal band really did a bass and drum. Can we do one more or no? We'll do one more. And then Queen came out and made it huge. That was their biggest song at the time. That was number 1 on the charts, in the rock charts, disco charts, and pop charts. Number 1. So they stole the thunder from Nazareth. All right, let's do number. This one's going to be 3 songs. We could do 3 songs here. All right, song 21. Of course, immigrant song, Zeppelin, from their 3rd album, 1970. The band that rips everyone off, right, Chris?
That's right.
But did these bands rip off Zeppelin? You guys decide. Track 22 from 1973. All right. That, of course, is Sweet, one of the most underrated bands from the 70s. What do you think, Chris? We'll play the 3rd song after this. I want to see what Chris has to say. Random or ripoff?
Because it's Led Zeppelin, not a ripoff.
All right. Sweet is off the hook. Neeley?
I'm going to go with Chris. I don't really see that as being a direct ripoff.
Okay. Interesting. How about track 23? If any of you could guess what band this is, I'll be very impressed. And knowing your 70s pop knowledge there, Chris, I won't be surprised if you know. Play that one more time, if you can. What band is that, Chris?
I don't know. Wow. Did I know it? Is it like famous?
1972. The Osmonds. That was the Osmonds. That was a pretty heavy record, the Crazy Horses album. Is that a ripoff of Immigrant Song, Chris?
Yes, of course it is.
Neeley.
Yeah, given the era that came out and the popularity of Led Zeppelin, I would say they were trying to capitalize.
There
on
you
that,
go.
so.
The Osmonds are plagiarists.
What year was that?
1972. So it was.
What
2
year
years
was
after.
Immigrant Song?
1970.
Okay. All right. So there was enough time to steal it.
Well, there you go. I think we're gonna have to wrap up here. But what a great is that perfect wrapping up Inside Metal with the Osmonds? How perfect is that, man? How metal is that? Joel MacGyver. That is fucking metal, dude. The Osmonds are metal. So there you go. Chris Akin and Neeley. Thanks for playing this with me. That was quite fun. I hope we didn't bore the people to death on that. But you're gonna jail a few of the artists then, huh?
That's right.
All right. Once again, Chris Akin, Neeley, Classic Metal Show, classicmetalshow.com every Saturday night at I always get 9 p.m.
The 3 a.m. Eastern time.
Eastern time at 9 p.m., 6 p.m. on the Western time on Saturday nights. TheClassicMetalShow.com. Check them out. Thanks again, Chris Akin and Neeley from The Classic Metal Show. Hail and kill, motherfuckers.
Hey, thanks for having us, Bob.
Fuck you, pal. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, hand job.
Yes.
You're watching T Radio E. Radio and TV.